to the Cut Through podcast. I'm Simon Bohr, and this is how to communicate with clarity in a noisy world. Welcome to the Cut Through podcast. I'm Simon Bohr. In my final months leading UK government communications, people often ask me whether Keir Starmer's communication should be more like Donald Trump's. They had usually read an article explaining how Trump overwhelms the media through a daily diet of spectacle, outrage, and distraction, what his supporters call flooding the zone. By constantly pivoting from one emotionally charged issue to the next, his critics are always playing catch-up and never able to challenge any single issue effectively. Earlier this year, newspapers reported that senior Labour MPs were urging Keir Starmer to do the same. One was quoted as watching the Trump administration with envy. He's out there making announcements all the time. Imagine if we had done the same thing. It doesn't even matter whether your announcements are going to happen. The point is, you're telling people who you are and what you want to do. For me, this is drawing completely the wrong lesson for the current Labour government from Trump's communications. There are lessons to learn, but let's start with why artificially manufacturing attention is unlikely to be a successful strategy for Keir Starmer. Trump has a casual relationship with the truth. No success is too small to exaggerate, no failure too large to blame on others. He's willing to stoke prejudice, belittle others, distort the facts if it serves his interests, and he is very good at it. Whatever you think of our Prime Minister, he built his career on being a serious grown-up. He was the anti-Corbyn, then the anti-Truss. He's temperamentally indisposed to manufacturing noise for the sake of it, especially if he feels it distorts important issues or demonizes minorities. And when he tries to do so, such as saying Britain risks becoming an island of strangers in a speech on immigration, he sounds inauthentic. That's not to say that there aren't tactical lessons to learn from Trump. As Peter Hyman argues convincingly, the Prime Minister should spend more personal time on social media. Ronald Reagan's old line that if you're explaining, you're losing feels out of date. If Starmer isn't making his own arguments online, then Zach Polanski and Nigel Farage will fill the vacuum. But Starmer should think of this more as a modern version of Franklin Roosevelt's fireside chats, communicating directly with the public to build confidence and to explain difficult choices than as creating attention-seeking chaos. It needs to be personal, authentic, and direct to work. But being Prime Minister does give him a unique advantage. He gets to do and say things that matter every day. He doesn't need to imitate Trump's politics or character to learn from how Donald Trump uses the power of the presidency to dominate attention. The second issue is that Trump and Starmer have fundamentally different supporters. When Donald Trump launched his presidential bid in 2015, he didn't ask voters to trust him. He told Americans that the system was broken, the establishment was corrupt, and that only an outsider like him could fix it. From the outset, he cast Washington as the swamp, a corrupt elite betraying ordinary Americans. And the more that the establishment screamed about his unsuitability, the more he used it against them. People described him as Teflon, but he wasn't just Teflon. Every attack on him actually boosted his appeal by proving that if you wanted to give the elites a kicking, there was nothing they'd hate more than him winning. This is important because Trump's base doesn't care if he tells the truth because he says what they feel. The conflict is the communication, where clarity of friends and enemies matter much more than accuracy of policy. Contrast that to Keir Starmer. He's a former QC and Director of Public Prosecutions whose strongest supporters at the last election were metropolitan professionals who were still upset about a Brexit bus slogan. He cares deeply about the truth, and so does his base. If he stands in the middle of Whitehall and shoots his mouth off, he will be punished for it. So, for Starmer, he needs to learn from Trump's ability to create emotional resonance for his base, but without adopting his values. And I think this is where the most problematic issue for Keir Starmer arises. Listen to that Labour MP's quote again. "You're telling people who you are and what you want to do." Everyone knows who Trump is because he's been telling us for a decade and he's never changed his tune. Making America great again. America first. Strength. On the side of ordinary Americans against the elites. Every outburst, every insult, every message reinforces that framing. People have got Trump's comms wrong. They describe it as chaotic, but his messaging is strategically coherent and remarkably disciplined. The targets may shift constantly from immigrants to the media to universities to woke corporations, but the framing never changes. You probably can't tell me what Keir Starmer stands for. I think if you asked the cabinet for the driving purpose of this government, you might hear 20 different answers. When MPs talk about the government needing to improve its communications or to get its message across, it suggests that there is a coherent message to communicate. The real issue with the government's communications has not been a lack of technical proficiency, but a lack of clear strategic purpose. Trump delivers a new execution daily, but it all adds up to the same thing. Keir Starmer's government is making a different and unconnected argument each week. Having a clear purpose won't just help the Prime Minister to tell a coherent story, it will also align his team. When every minister and official understands what he is for and why, they will make better decisions, stay on message, spot opportunities in the moment. They will have the flexibility to be more creative and to stir controversy that drives media cut-through, knowing where the boundaries for action are. Starmer could copy every Trump tactic, flooding the zone, televising cabinet, phoning into radio shows. But if there's no story to tell, people still won't know what he stands for. The lesson isn't to mimic Trump's chaos, but to master his strategic focus. And I think this is the most important lesson for communicators more widely as well. Too often we're obsessing over tactics, or we go straight to execution without thinking about whether we have a coherent story. Whatever you think of Trump, it's difficult to conclude anything other than he has been a masterful communicator. But his tactics only work because they're built on a coherent long-term strategy, a clear knowledge of who and what he is for and against. You may not like it, but it works for his audience. Thank you very much for listening. Please do share with other communicators who want to lead with clarity and cut through the noise. And I will be back next week for a special Christmas edition of Cut Through. Until then, take care.